Council meeting. I'll hand over to the General Manager to read the conditions of the live streaming. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The meeting is being live streamed and or recorded for on-demand viewing via Council's website. Attendance at the meeting is to be taken as consent by a person to their image and or voice being webcast. All speakers should refrain from making defamatory comments or releasing personal information about other individuals without their consent. Council accepts no liability for any damage that may result from a defamatory comments made by persons attending meetings. All liability will rest with the individuals who made the comments. The meeting must not be recorded by others without prior written consent of the Council in accordance with the Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Councillors and staff are obliged to declare conflicts of interest as required under the Local Government Act and Council's adopted Code of Conduct. Councillors are reminded of their oath of office whereby they have declared and affirmed that they will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Wentworth Shire and the Wentworth Shire Council, and that they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment.
Thank you, Ken. I'll now ask you to be upstanding for the acknowledgement of country and the prayer. I would like to pay my respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. We give thanks and ask for guidance and direction that each of us may fulfil our responsibility to our community and to our country. Amen. Thank you. Okay, we have no apologies. Do we have any leave of absence requests? Councillor Crisp, can you please use your microphone?
I may need to join next week's briefing by teleconference. I could be out of town.
No problem. Noted. Any others? Okay, disclosures of interests. I have one in item 9.5.
I have also one in 9.5.
Thank you. Any others? Okay. The confirmation of the previous minutes. Councillor McAllister.
Thank you. I'm sorry to do this to you, but I did abstain from voting on a few of the items because I wasn't fully briefed and therefore was unable to make an informed decision. Okay. Those items being 6.1, 9.4, 9.5, 9.6, 9.7 and 9.8. And in relation to 9.10 on page 25, you can see that there is a vote against, so it also was not carried unanimously.
Okay.
So I would seek to move that the minutes be confirmed with those amendments.
With those amendments. Seconder, Councillor Crisp. The motion is now that the minutes of the August 17 meeting be confirmed and amended as per Councillor McAllister's request. All in favour? Carried. We also have the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the 12th of September, be confirmed as circulated. Any comments? Mover, Councillor Nichols. Seconder, Councillor Crisp. Any comments? All in favour? Carried. Public forum. All right, I'll ask the Deputy Mayor to take us into closure for the public forum. Thanks, Councillor Linklater.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move that the ordinary meeting be adjourned and the recording of the meeting paused for the purpose of conducting a public forum.
Second up, Councillor Cooper. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. All right, we have three speakers tonight. The first being Mr Bob Wilden in relation to item 9.10, followed by James Goldsworthy, who'll be speaking in favour of 9.12, and Jason Underhill, who'll be speaking against 9.13. So, thanks, Bob. Okay, thanks very much, Bob. Any questions, people? Councillor Linklater?
Thanks, Bob, for your presentation and your interest in the tourist offerings here. We've had some information prior to the meeting that that time is of the essence with this document, and that any subsequent changes that I think you suggested maybe amending this. I was going to ask what you're actually asking us to do in terms of what's in front of us, but in terms of amendments to what's in front of us, that we might chuck the baby out with the bathwater. And perhaps we need to proceed with this. But we also heard that in terms of specific planning proposals, that there is a way around, I forget the exact term, I think it was additional permitted use. In terms of examples you've mentioned about tourism offerings and accommodation, do you see a problem with additional permitted use?
Well, it requires an amendment to the LEP. So you have to go, and in the case of the Kelly development of the caravan park in Trenton Cliffs, that was how it proceeded. But sometimes those things, for a reason I don't quite understand, they were not really required to do any studies or anything. But most planning proposals, you know, they can take years. This is a very simple thing. In your land use table, you're considering it now, and you have a choice. It's not the planning officer's choice or the department's choice. It's, do you guys believe that tourism, we should have the flexibility? And it's not saying there should be, every tourism proposal should go ahead. You can still, it's just that it comes to council. Council can consider it. This is really a restriction being put on council. It restricts the landowners as well, but council, if it's prohibited, council can't consider an application. Whereas if it's permitted with consent, in terms of your point about how you could go forward, I mean, I certainly believe that the things I mentioned, hotel and motel accommodation service apartments should be permitted with consent in the rural zone. Information education facilities should be permitted with consent. So you can still knock these things back, an application, you can put whatever level of conditions you want on them, but at the moment you can't even consider them. And if you look at other councils, Cessnock, Shoalhaven, Singleton, Musselbrook, Tamworth even, these developments occur. And what is a terrible thing? Like, I mean, perhaps you should go up to these areas, Hunter Valley, you know, I'm sure many of you have. Go and see Hunter Valley, and you'll see that there's a lot of development, residential development there see, people won't leave Sydney and go to Cessnock. Cessnock's a bit smaller than Mildura. It's just like going from one suburbia to a slightly smaller suburbia. People won't do it. Now, Wentworth's even a smaller suburbia than Cessnock, but still it's suburbia. People are not interested in leaving their suburban life and holidaying in another suburban life. They want to get out into the farmland or the nature or whatever. So really, I think you should give solid consideration, because effectively when you pass this planning proposal as it is, you're going to be saying, I vote for prohibiting tourism. That's basically, you've got an individual choice. You all have to register your vote in any planning proposal, and you have complete freedom, so long as you're making your decisions with good, your best feelings at heart. You can vote any way you want, but it is your vote. It's not. You don't have to vote just because the DPI said you should, or the planning staff. I mean, obviously everyone's trying to work in there, do what they think is the right thing. They don't necessarily, the DPI Orange staff don't really understand what's happening. And if you go to Orange, I mean, Orange is a very good example. I didn't bother looking at the Orange LEP, but it's got a very vibrant tourism scene. I'd be very surprised if they don't have, you know, I actually know of farm stay accommodation. I don't know, I haven't bothered to look at the LEP, I can do it. But, you know, these guys have got all this cosmopolitan stuff, and they say, well, you know, stuff you out here. I think really we should be, but in terms of your point about timing, well, the timing is really a matter for individual councillors. Individual councillors should satisfy themselves personally, I don't think you should vote to prohibit something unless you're confident that that's the right thing to do. If you're confident, you should go with what you're confident. If you're confident in the LEP and it's got enough information, then go ahead with it today. You make whatever changes you think are appropriate. But if you're not yet confident, I think it's a very involved document. For example, I've given you in the papers, the council staff in their document in the planning proposal say that service accommodation and motel accommodation shouldn't be in the rural areas because they should be in the towns. That's the argument as far as I can see. I couldn't see any other argument given. It just should, it's the type of thing that should be in the towns. Well, the Destination New South Wales, which have independent consultants, have actually looked at this very specifically, and they believe that there's a need for a product of a different nature that, it draws people out in the country. So there's actually a strategic basis for the position I'm putting, and I submit that the business paper you've got doesn't have any strategic support. And obviously the council staff are doing their best. They're sort of, they're between. There's another point which is trying to get the DPI hierarchy to realise that their staff are really being very inflexible. There's part of it. Obviously, the staff all operate within their limits. I think certainly councils going back a long time have always tried to lobby the ministries for more flexibility. I feel like I'm taking more time than I'm due, so...
Probably gone a bit over the 3 minutes, Bob, yeah. That's just on the answer. But thank you kindly. We value the input, and I'm sure the councillors will have a hard think and a good discussion about it. So thank you. There's no other questions for Bob? All right. Oh, Brian, okay. Okay, thanks, James. Any questions? Councillor Linklater.
Yeah, thanks, James. Yeah, most of this happened before my time on council, but very interested reading through it. Would I be correct in thinking that one would only submit for permission to demolish a house on the basis that they would be able to put another dwelling on that site?
That was always the intent, and I suppose the consent was obtained for the demolition. In hindsight, maybe it would have been a good idea to apply for a permit to get a replacement dwelling approval at the time. However, I suppose there was other things going on with the redevelopment of the land and that sort of thing, and that wasn't something that took place. So certainly it was always the intent for a replacement dwelling to go there, and we say that it's certainly within council's power because of the existing use provisions and particularly that COVID provision, if you like.
Yeah, no, thanks, and I take the comment from my fellow councillor. It is an assumption, but I think the images the historical images provided are very meritorious in demonstrating that there was a dwelling there, and if you take a bit of a helicopter view out in what's the right thing to do, yeah, why would you knock a building down without thinking you were going to be able to put another one up? So thank you for that.
Okay, thanks. Any others? Right, thank you, James. All right, now final speaker is Jason Underhill, and he's speaking against item 9.13.
problem that I have that I think will impact. One of the other little issues which I haven't had any answers for was we have the twin raw water filtered water system. Those 300, eventually 300 houses are between the water tower and my place, and I have asked what is going to happen with the drop in the pressure, because at the moment it is really only just usable as it is, and the property where I am is actually, they're quite large properties, they're 17, nearly 1,800 metres, the property, and I actually have an adjoining property, so I have 48 and 50 Pickford Avenue. One has my house on it, the other is actually vacant, which was part of the gardens for the bonsai nursery, and is now my escape from the world, that part of it. Yeah, so the fact, I haven't had any answers about my concerns about the drop in water pressure, because that will cause me to have to not use my automated systems that I put in to minimise the time that I spend having to water. So the automated systems, so I would have to be going back to a manual system to water both blocks, and that would be very time consuming for me. All right, when I make it retired, I can manage it, but while I'm still working full time, it would be a big burden on keeping my garden as it is, and rails through here. There are a number of, and I know I've only got 3 minutes, and I probably won't go into it too much, but there are a lot of safety aspects that I feel need to be. I don't know what's been looked into on Pickford Avenue, but there's quite a number of safety aspects that need to be ensured that it's safe, because that's the current way it is. And I know there's probably intentions of widening the road and those sorts of things, and that actually quickly brings me to one other little, probably lesser thing, but there's an avenue of jacarandas that go down Pickford Avenue, and the last question, once again with my intentions, what is happening to them, because you can't buy trees like that. You can't just create, and I've been looking for the same jacaranda straight out my driveway. Oh yes, that's right. When I did speak to Matthew in that first meeting that I had with him, we talked about the stage 1 of that subdivision, all the house lots that basically go along Pickford Avenue to Melaleuca. When we talked about that, his suggestion was that he gets the developers to put in a service road for those houses that take them out to Melaleuca, and then off they go down to the highway or to wherever they need to. But in the proposal now, all those houses have driveways out onto Pittman, which is, I think, going to just create a higher risk of danger on that road, and also it probably means that the jacarandas probably will be disappearing, which would be sad for me. That's not the end of the world if that happens, don't get me wrong, but I would like to think they would be looked after, because you can't just create things like that in a place. And there's no talk, I mean, I'm a little bit in the dark because I don't quite exactly know what's happening within the development. There's no recreation park within the development. I would have thought that large developments nowadays should include a recreation park for the 300 families that will be there with their kids one day. Some sort of area like that. I mean, Bronga doesn't have a lot of parks really. We've got the one down at the roundabout heading over to the bridge on the drainage where the town water sort of goes that parkland there, and that's probably about it really. If you're bringing in another 300 families, plus the 100 behind me, which are a party of. So I'm feeling a little bit sandwiched at the moment by development. But as I said, I'm not against any of the developments. I'm just against developments that, to me, don't seem well designed, and I feel that a development shouldn't impact any existing residents. They should be certainly taken into account that it's not detrimental to the existing residents or businesses if it's a business involved.
All right, well, I think you've probably had your 3 minutes pretty well. So.
The main thing is this exit. I just
Yep.
can't see the logic, and the fact that no one's actually come and talked to me about it is
Okay.
a concern to me, and it's sort of a bit unfortunate I'm coming down to having 3 minutes to talk
Yeah.
to talk to you about it. But I hope you do understand where I'm coming from. So just in closing, I have got a little in closing line here for you. I just would ask you to put yourself in my situation. If it was your house and you've been there for a very long time, and all of a sudden you've got this P intersection coming smack bang into your yard, how would you personally feel about that? Would you be happy about that? Because it does cause me quite a bit of distress, and I'm feeling it at the moment, especially now as things are progressing along. Anyway, I thank you for this moment.
All right, well.
I do actually invite any of you to come meet with me at my place, and you will. It's probably easier for me to explain and for you to actually see what I'm talking about than me just trying to tell you now.
All right, well, thanks, Jason. So there's an offer there, councillors. Any questions for Jason? Councillor McAllister?
Is your phone number attached to the submission so that we can contact you if we do want to say something?
Yeah. And I made invites each submission to come and talk to me, meet with me, but nothing, not any contact at all. In your process for the objection process, put it in place so that people in the future that are objecting get talked to. I mean, to me, it does my head in thinking that I've got to this stage of 3 objections and no one's actually come and seen me about anything. So I'm feeling a bit in the dark about it all. And then, yeah, anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Any others? All right, thanks very much, Jason. Thank you, speakers. Now, before we go back in open council, very, very, very sad to hear that Michelle Boss is going to leave us as from tomorrow. She has been a fantastic contributor to council's planning department for a long time. I'd just like to say thank you very much, and we wish you all the very best moving forward, and hope the rain continues at Pine Camp. Okay, Councillor Linklater, will you take us?
Thank you, Michelle. And could I move that council reconvene into open session and that the recording of the meeting be recommenced?
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Cooper, all in favour? Carried. Okay, so item number 6.1, outstanding matters from previous meetings. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, to Councillor Rodder, Councillor Hayward. Open for discussion. Councillor Nichols.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I think last week there's last council meeting there's an item I brought up about the infrastructure that's on the footpath opposite the post office near our civic buildings, when we were going to do something about having that, it's been there for 2 years, when we were going to fix up the mess of the footpath. It's not in here.
Not mentioned. I do recall you bringing it up, yes.
So I'd like it put in, please, because it's something that, it's an eyesore, it's an ongoing eyesore, and it needs to be resolved.
Okay, let's have that added to. Any other discussion? Councillor Hayward, turn your microphone on, please.
Have we come to any conclusions about the buildings that we bought, whether it's viable to split them up or build new ones?
On the costings obtained, it's more financially beneficial to buy new ones.
So will we then be putting these other ones up for auction or something?
Yeah, we'll find out a disposal method of them, would be my recommendation, yes.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Councillor Beaumont, turn your microphone on, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm just wondering whether there's any further update on any of the other three items that are listed, being the Darling Street footpaths, the speed restrictions between Sandwich and Adams Streets, Long Bay parking, whether there's been any work done on that, and also the anything to report in relation to the Ruby and what options we may have there moving forward.
I can comment and say that the Ruby is as it's tabled there. It says its options being investigated, so nothing further to report in relation to that. I defer or refer so there's an answer there in relation to the Long Bay parking, saying that it'll be a consideration of the next local traffic committee. The speed restrictions, again, it's a pedestrian activity area, currently assessing the program for approval and project funding, so that's works in progress. And the Darling Street Council allocated money to that, so it'll go through a design phase for public consultation and see where it takes us in the delivery of a program within that funding round.
Okay, any others? All in favour? Carried. 7.1 is the mayoral reports. I'll move. Second to Councillor Linklater. Any discussion?
Just a question, the Murray-Darling Association conference, how did the AGM go?
We actually left prior to, it was late the Wednesday afternoon, the AGM. We were on our way home. Did get a bit of a report from Bob Stewart and Region 4 Chair Councillor Monica at Mildura. All the local motions got up, so and over the line. It was a good few days. We had a trip up the Dartmouth Dam on the Monday, and lo and behold, of course, it spilled on the Wednesday, didn't it, on our way home? So missed it by that much, but it was great to see it. All right, any others? All in favour? Carried. 9.1 is the General Manager's report. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillors Nichols and Rodder. Discussion. Councillor Nichols.
General Manager could please give us a bit of report on the RZ Resources meeting and also the Kumiala Health Aboriginal Corporation, please.
Thank you, August. RZ Resources was just meeting to talk about a possible contribution to the Junction Island project. They've got some obligations to provide some community resources or money towards a project, and they're asking about the Junction Island project. Kumiala Aboriginal Health Corporation is one where I just try to keep in contact and try to keep the momentum going through the clinic. So it was pretty much works Works as per usual, just keeping an update in relation to the number of doctors. There was a decline in EFTs in the clinic here. That was due to an ill health of one of the GPs. I'd probably need to reconfirm, but that was meant to be taken back to the 5 days a week. I just need to reconfirm that. But yeah, works in progress.
Yeah, thank you. Any others? All in favour? Carried.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
With my hand up.
sorry.
Just a correction to the events upcoming. So the Wentworth Regional Tourism meeting, which is listed there as being on the 3rd of October, has actually been postponed to the 10th because Monday the 3rd is a holiday.
Okay, thank you, councillor Rod. I will duly note that.
Mr Mayor, I just want to recap and refer again to the industry networking forum that a couple of councillors attended on the 14th of September. I was privileged to attend the industry networking forum presented by Simon Kustenmarker, a market research consultant and trend analyser. The focus of the presentation was about identifying your market through the analysis of demographic trends, statistics, consumer insights, observations and cultural change. His strong message was about identifying your market and not to assume that by aiming to the middle ground reduces the best economic reward for your business community. In relation to tourism, there were 2 specific age groups that were identified as the most lucrative markets, that being the 25 to 30 age group, school leavers, university graduates. They're out to work, often on highly paid and skilled jobs, therefore earning big salaries. They have minimum commitments and therefore have money to spend. The other age group is the 55 to 70-year-olds that have finished work, they're cashed up, mortgages are paid out, and they're looking to travel and enjoy retirement. I mention this because tourism is one of our biggest potential growth areas, I believe, and I think with this simple observation in mind that Wentworth Shire Council should be supportive of investment in tourism enterprises and particularly those investment initiatives that target demographic groups that will, for the foreseeable future, have large disposable incomes and savings to spend. So I think it's something that we need to keep in mind when we're talking tourism and looking at tourism initiatives going forward.
Okay,
Thank
yep,
you.
as discussed in the briefing, we certainly will continue on with that. Okay, item 9.2 is the statutory meetings, the council meeting dates and time. Can I have a mover and a second? We did vote on it, and those last 2 comments come in after it was voted on. So do we need to re-vote on that?
I would have thought as a councillor we'd have an opportunity to contribute feedback from meetings.
Absolutely no problem with that at all. I just, we'd put it to the vote and you can come in afterwards, but that's fine.
Sorry.
So we'll just vote again. All in favour? Carried. Okay. Thank you. 9.2 is the council meeting dates and times. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Hayward, Councillor Beaumont, open for discussion. I think there's flexibility there anyway, and it's today as an example because we were due last Wednesday and a couple of us were away, so we're happy we adopt those dates. All in favour? Carried.
I just wanted to discuss the timing because, sorry, have I jumped the gun? Is that?
No.
Okay. Because for those of us who finishing work and getting here by 5 and then hanging around for half an hour, which I didn't realise we were doing, I thought we were going straight into the council meeting, which we actually did today because we used up that whole hour for discussion. It just feels a little bit like it's taking a bit of my life away from me. I don't mean to be grumpy or anything, but that's just my experience. I'd rather get straight into it and go. Maybe start a bit later if we need to so that we can get here and
discussion, and it is a bit of a challenge if you're working to be here by 5 o'clock for the briefing, but, it seems fairly acceptable to everyone up until this point. Perhaps there's some room for negotiation, but I think everybody's got busy schedules, we've all got commitments.
I'm happy to discuss whatever you like in relation, if you want to kick around starting a bit later, or...
Well, most of the time, we've used up the time because we don't often get much time to have that meal break. So it is an important time for discussions.
The briefing, certainly.
The briefing, yeah.
Certainly.
Whether you move it along doesn't worry me, but we need that briefing.
You still want the allocated time, man.
Yeah.
Councillor Nichols.
You're correct, and it doesn't seem to matter what time we have it, there'll still be a problem. I can remember at one stage we had morning meetings, and the expectation was still that councillors be here for the meetings. So, I mean, they started, I think, at 9 o'clock, and we went through to something like 12:30 at times, and sometimes 1 o'clock. So it was just one of those things that whatever time you pick, we're going to run into problems with people who work. So, and unfortunately, some people have to work.
Yeah, Councillor Linklater.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, from my perspective, I'm happy with the timeframes, mainly because for a number of us new councillors, there was a lot of big issues to get our heads around, and it's one of the few times we get in front of the senior staff, and I think that some of the big issues are going to continue. For example, the upgrade to water infrastructure at the Goal end. So I think every opportunity we have to utilise that time is important, and often, as Councillor Hayward mentioned, we go nearly into the start of meeting time in any case.
Councillor Beaumont.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, look, sometimes I feel that the pre-meeting sessions are a bit rushed. We tend to spend a lot of time on big issues, obviously, and then there's not sufficient time remaining to look at perhaps other agenda items that councillors might have questions on. So I would actually probably like to see the briefing meetings go a bit longer, to be honest.
Longer. Okay, Councillor Rodder.
Yes, I would concur with Councillor Beaumont. I also feel that we could extend the briefing time because there's a lot of projects that are underway on being proposed, and there's a lot of information to get across in regards to what's not written in the papers. So, yeah, I would be happy for another half an hour for the briefing session. And in regards to the meeting schedule, I don't know what the general feeling is in the chamber to actually have a meeting in January, whether we have a briefing meeting rather than a statutory meeting, that would be okay. And I would like to see, which hasn't happened so far this term, is for some of those meetings to be held at this place.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor McAllister.
I have a memory of chewing and talking during pre-meeting briefings. Is it possible to do that maybe rather than having a discrete break where we're sort of standing around, like, for example?
Yeah, go from 5 to 6:30 and eat something while we're going through the briefing and straight into the meeting. Good idea.
When I first come on council, it's a bit like now. We went to fortnightly meetings because there was so much was happening, and we seem to be in that situation now where we've got lots of big projects.
I think we did go to fortnightly actual meetings.
Yeah.
We're still meeting fortnightly because we have the advisory meeting.
Yeah.
But we changed it back then just so we could vote on the day, I think was the idea.
Yeah.
But all right, so you're happy at 5 o'clock still? We won't have the half-hour break. We'll just have a sandwich around the chamber and go straight in the meeting.
Gluten-free, of course, Mr.
Gluten-free, of course, Councillor. Councillor Beaumont.
Would we not be better to have the half-hour break at 6:30 and commence the formal proceedings at 7?
Yeah.
Go from 5 to 6:30, still have a half-hour break.
Yes. That'd be my,
Okay.
my preference.
Well, completely up to the council. Councillor Nichols.
I'm happy with what we're doing because we're expecting our staff, the senior staff, to work longer and they've been here, God only knows how many hours already, and your brain's a lot better earlier than later. Mine is anyway. So, probably on the over 1 over 80, so.
Look, someone make the call. I'm quite open to whatever you want to do. Councillor Beaumont?
So I'm happy to move a motion along the lines that the pre-meeting commence at 5 through until 6:30 with a half-hour break, and then to commence the formal ordinary meeting proceedings at 7 p.m.
Seconder for that, Councillor Hayward. All in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 against. 1, 2, 3, 4. Carried. Okay, 9.3 is review of the internal committees. Pat? What is that thing? A mover, Councillor Nichols. Yep, can you turn your microphone on, please?
With an alteration, I'm the current president of the Wentworth Bowling Club and I will have a conflict of interest, so I need not to be at the Wentworth Sporting Precinct User Group, and I think we need to get a lot clearer on what our conflicts are.
Okay. All right, well, but we haven't really determined anything yet like that in terms of the committee. You can get off that. So we'll just look for a mover for the recommendation so we can Councillor Rodder, Councillor Linklater. So Councillor Nichols has explained her interest in the bowling club and she's won't be on the user group there. Councillor McAllister.
I'd like to add a committee, if I may, sir. I've been doing a little bit of research into Heritage Committee under Section 377 of the Local Government Act, and according to the New South Wales Heritage Guidelines, having a Heritage Committee, which would have at least one councillor, an opportunity for community members and specialists from all sorts of areas, including progress associations, historical committees, Aboriginal groups, and others, businesses, tourism, etc., could potentially unlock the ability for this council to have access to a heritage officer and significant resources in terms of assisting wherever there are heritage issues or roadblocks, also in compiling or adding to the state asset list, which I don't know what level of contribution this council has had in the past, but the research that I've done seems to suggest that this could be a potential way of getting increased community advice, acting as an advisory group, if you like, that can then report back to council, particularly on, planning matters.
Okay, what's the rules there? Can we just add a committee? Or?
Yeah, I mean, Councillor Gill's given justification. I mean, whether the attraction of an officer funded, it's all part of the scheme. We've had them before.
Okay. All right, Councillor Nichols.
These committees are listed on this page, so I think they are part of it. I did take on the vacant part.
Would you like to just turn your microphone on again, Councillor Nichols?
I'd be happy to take on the floodplain vacant position if I go off the bowling club. So they are listed, so.
All right.
Well, I'm happy to go on any of the others too. It doesn't matter so long as I don't have a conflict.
All right, I'll just go back to Councillor McAllister if I can, and her point. So Obviously, you're it, it's the Heritage Committee, the newly formed Heritage Committee. Yeah. No, I think we decided early in the piece that if, you know, most of these committees, you can have more than one at them. So if you want to, Councillor Rodder.
We need a seconder for that, Mr Mayor.
We haven't made any decision yet. We're just getting those volunteers as to who wants to go where, and then we'll just bulk them, won't we?
Don't we need to have council endorsement of the new committee?
Yes, perhaps you're correct there.
The motion is that council determines its preferred committee structure.
Structure, yeah, so we'll be covered under that. So we're gonna sort out those committees and add a heritage committee. Yeah, Councillor Bowman?
Oh, just in relation to Councillor McAllister's suggestion, I would like to see some wording around exactly who and what interests would be covered in that broad title of historical heritage. You did mention cultural and Indigenous.
If I may, sorry, just again referring to the New South Wales Heritage Guidelines, it refers to specifically Aboriginal, built, movable and natural heritage. It would need to be a committee of council. The suggestion is that it's chaired by a councillor, includes community reps and staff. And I would suggest that interest comes from the community in terms of who wants to join and keep it open and do an expression of interest.
Question, Councillor McAllister. So that's natural heritage and Aboriginal Indigenous heritage. What about heritage buildings and things? Is that covered in that committee?
Yeah, I did say built
Right.
and movable, which would include the ruby.
But you said Indigenous?
I said their words, Aboriginal, built, movable and natural heritage. Yes, there were commas, yeah.
Righto. So we'll go through them one by one and add that one at the bottom. The floodplain risk council, at the moment it's myself, the deputy mayor, and a vacant position. Councillor Nichols has volunteered for that. Happy with that? Okay. The Audit Risk Improvement Committee, only allowed one on that, so that's Councillor Beaumont's only had one meeting, so happy to continue with that.
Yes, at this point in time.
Okay. Caramar Drive, Councillor Linklater and Councillor Roddo, happy with that? Hey?
Yeah, alternative councillor. There's none on the side there.
Oh, okay, yep.
I'll throw my hand up for alternatives.
Alternate, okay, it's Councillor McAllister for Caramar Drive. George Gordon is Councillor Cooper and Councillor Crisp. Okay, Councillor Hayward is the alternative. James King Park is Councillor Linklater and Rodder. Councillor McAllister would be happy to be the...
I'd just like to point out, Mr Mayor, that thus far in almost 10 months, there hasn't been a single meeting.
Okay,
As required.
yeah.
Infrequent, that way.
It would seem so.
Nothing's required.
When there's an issue, they'll round you up.
Right.
All right, the Wentworth Showgrounds user group is Councillor Beaumont, Councillor Hayward, and a vacant spot. Councillor Nichols. Do we need an alternate when there's already three? Should be right. Wentworth Sporting Precinct, well, Councillor Nichols is coming off, so we need someone to go on to that. Councillor Cooper's volunteering there. The Pancari Sporting Reserve User Group is Councillor Hayward with Councillor Rodder as the alternative. The Heritage Group now will be Councillor McAllister. Perhaps, I think so, yeah, certainly so, it can be recorded somewhere. With that, is it just worth considering, get it up and going, and then we can talk about alternatives and other support?
Yeah, because the terms of reference would have to be brought by the members of the group, so I'd suggest probably this, the stage would be an expression of interest,
Establishment,
hear
yeah.
back from community, and then go forward.
Okay, we're all happy with that?
The, when we're adding something, long time ago, or the last council, we had a road safety committee.
I think it got scheduled by the government though, didn't it, by
Did it?
Traffic New South, is that right? We used to have a road safety committee.
Used to be myself and
Yeah, it's no longer in place.
was an important thing, I thought, that we
Yes,
kept
I
up
think
with what
you've-
was going
you've
on.
raised that before, but
Why would their reasons be? We're only another couple of people sitting in on a conversation. Most of the time it was by phone, Dewagga.
There was a specific reason and a reply earlier on for that. I'll take that on notice. I'm happy to bring that information back.
whack your microphone on, mate.
Yeah. Because we've got a lot going on about our roads and stuff. And last time we went on a bus ride, but we were excluded, the councillors, having the meeting with the officials the next day.
Yeah,
So we had a bit of input, but we never seen what,
yeah, then got thrown out.
yeah, got thrown out the door. So, yeah.
All right, we can follow up on
Yeah.
that one, but in the short term, we'll just put that to the vote. All in favour? Carried. 9.4 is the review of the external committees. Councillor Crisp move, Councillor Linklater second. Discussion.
Like my job's back.
You'd like to remain? I'm sure that's fine. I think given that we've only really had 9 months, that everybody would have the same. Is there anything there, Councillor McAllister, that you would like to join?
Yes, sir. Having co-founded and brought to council the Wentworth Shire Interagency Group, I would like to rejoin that particular committee. Thank you, sir.
Okay. It's done. Any others? The rest remain as is. Councillor Beaumont.
Mr Mayor, can I just add that, to my knowledge, there's been no formal announcement on the makeup of the Willandra Lakes Region World Heritage Advisory Committee. I believe we have 3 nominations.
Yeah, no, there hasn't been a decision yet. Okay. Well, I'm sort of there. So we probably don't need. Block 10, I think we had Councillor Cooper was the, were you the backup on that one? Yeah, so that's.
The alternate's vacant, so former Councillor Evans was the alternate
Yeah.
there. So we're looking for an alternate there and
Yeah.
I was unable to attend that one because it was during the day in person. I thought it was going to be a video link up. And if it was,
I'll put the name down for Western Division. You got you on your vote, it's
Yeah.
vacant, if that's all right.
I'm happy to be the alternate for lots of.
Locks 8 and 9.
For locks 8 and 9. So Councillor Cooper with Councillor McAllister is the alternate. Councillor Nichols is Western Division group of councils. For Nichols. What was the other one? The MDA, well, there's Councillor Linklater, Councillor Haywood. I'm also part of that, so probably 3's enough, I would imagine. So, all right, councillor Linklater.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a quick question. Given the Willandra Lakes World Heritage Advisory Committee suggested to meet 3 times per annum at a minimum, and we've been here for 10 months, what's the normal time frame for them to appoint somebody from our council?
Can you
I'm
answer that?
happy to take that if you like. So the current or the previous committee actually concluded their position in June of this year. As I wasn't re-elected in December, that position was vacant. My understanding is that the last that I had heard, they still hadn't decided on the technical candidates, so that the chair and the scientific candidates, I think. But historically, we had been meeting, I think it was quarterly.
Okay, so the meetings have continued, we just haven't been there. Yep.
No, they haven't. So the minister extended the term to June of this year. So as of June, all of the positions were vacant.
Yep.
Is my understanding, and so they're still filling them. And it actually took 2 years, I think, before the nomination was successful last time from council. And noting that there's a change of, well, there's an election next year in March, that could also blow out the time frame of ministerial approval.
Okay, thanks.
All right, okay. We happy with those committees? All in favour? Carried. Okay, 9.5, I've declared an interest, so I'll call the Deputy Mayor up.
I've also declared an interest.
Okay, could I get a mover, please? Councillor Nichols and Councillor Haywood. The recommendation before us is that Council authorises the Deputy Mayor and the General Manager to sign the contract documentation and affix the Council seal. Any discussion? All in favour? Anyone against? All in favour? Thank you. We'll invite the Mayor and Councillor Cooper back.
Thank you, Councillor Linklater. All right, 9.6, the Union Picnic Day, the recommendations there, mover. Councillor Chris, seconder. Councillor Rodder, discussion. Generally done this every year, Councillor McAllister.
I'd just like to refer councillors to the fact that the union has fought and won a picnic day, and so union staff should be entitled to the picnic day that their union has fought and won for them. I think we're getting a little bit closer to doing it properly, but I just want to make the point that that's why you join unions, because they do look after you, and this is an important day, and I'd hate to think that it's in any way diminished or upsetting either our staff who are union members or the union itself by also offering a day off to general staff.
with the provision that it comes out of leave, whereas the union members get the granted day. So valid comment.
Councillor Nichols?
Mine's probably just a comment. I'm surprised that only 1 in 5 people are members of any union.
Okay, so taken. All right, all in favour? Carried. 9.7, Christmas leave arrangements, recommendation there. Mover, Councillor Chris, Councillor Rodder. Discussion? All in favour? Carried. 9.8, the monthly finance report, recommendation, Councillor Linklater, Councillor Rodder. Discussion? Councillor Hayward.
Yeah, just this Council's Road, is still running up a lot of hours. It's not, RMS.
A lot of that would be the Pencarry-Menindee Road, which is reimbursed through the federal and state grants.
Just reimbursed, is it, that?
Yeah,
That's
that'd be
okay.
right. Yeah.
We need it sort of be a bit
Yeah, I think it did come up.
information there,
That's, majority of it is
yeah.
due to that. Councillor Bowman, I think, had his hand up, followed by Councillor Nichols.
Yeah, the other one that stands out to me is the water and wastewater, 44.5 hours and 75.5 hours respectively for time and a half and double time. That's they're fairly significant figures as well. Is that indicative of an ageing infrastructure, or
Comment.
what's the situation there?
That all is in part due to some staff absences for sick leave, but it also is reflective of a significant number of call-outs and infrastructure breaks and damages over that past period. So that's certainly reflective of the work that's been done outside of ours.
Okay, Councillor
Yeah,
Nichols.
mine's to Mr Rule. Additional water charges of over 600,000. We've had a very, very wet winter for us, so why would we have $600,000 of additional water charges? Seems huge.
That was what the figures told us when we went and did the meter readings. There was the last meter reading bill that went out was about $600,000.
Supplementary, if I may. Is that because the meters haven't been read for a while?
No, we're doing them every 4 months, which we've been doing that for a couple of years. And those figures they're actually fairly consistent across the year. They were about $500,000 roughly for each of the three readings during the last financial year.
Councillor Rodder.
I have a question in regards to project. Mine doesn't work, so I'll need to speak loudly. So the community events program, would it be possible to get a breakdown of the funding allocation in that unexpended grants, please?
That's in the next.
That's in the next report.
Next item, yeah, next report. We're on 9.8 at the moment. Right, any others out of that? All in favour? Yeah, we all in favour? Carried. Okay. Now, 9.9, any questions? Councillor Rodder. Oh, we got a mover and a seconder, thank you. Move Councillor Rodder, seconded Councillor Linklater. Councillor Rodder, you have a question.
Request stands for the community events program, please, provided to council financial breakdown.
We received $240,000 upfront.
I know all that,
Yeah,
so,
yep.
yep, so I'm looking for something in writing on paper.
Go with that. Any others? All in favour? Carried. And 9.10 is the LEP Planning controls, planning proposal, there's a recommendation there. Can I have a mover and a seconder to open discussion? Move councillor Chris, seconded councillor Rodder. Open for discussion. Councillor Crisp.
There's been considerable interest in this, and there's a number of issues I think that we do need the director responsible for this to make clear. Firstly, with this, there's the gateway determination deadline, and I am interested to know what our options are regarding this deadline, and if we did choose to, for example, go back and review anything, what the consequences of that would be. The second area I'd like your advice on is Zenith planning and the rural living strategy, and how does this fit with this planning proposal, that work that's being done, and when will that Zenith strategy be available, and what's the process for it being implemented, and how it fits with what's in front of us now, and the process under which the new amended rural land planning controls and the Zenith strategy could be used to address the concern from Mr. Wheeldon regarding upmarket accommodation proposals and how that be managed by council.
Thank you, Councillor Crisp. In response to the first question with regard to the gateway determination and the deadline and the options, etc., as you know, the deadline is around mid-October or mid-November, deadline October. If council are so inclined, we can apply to the minister for an extension on that deadline to undertake any additional investigation or review that council would so like to see. The consequences of that would mean that any review of the plan proposal would need to go back out to consultation. We would need to re-engage with the various departments and also the community members that we've included in that consultation phase. So it could be delayed by another potentially few months, given that we're only 88 odd days to Christmas. It might blow out until the middle of next year, because in planning world, things tend to slow down over Christmas, New Year period and don't re-engage until the middle of January. So the consequences there is that, one, it gets delayed until the middle of next year potentially. The second consequence is the minister very well may, there's a 50-50 chance of either approving or not approving an extension. And if we look to start, so that's the options there, the consequences. The second part of your question is Zenith planning and its relation to this current proposal. As we sort of mentioned in the pre-briefing, there are two separate planning proposals. This current planning proposal aims to open up the land use table, especially in the rural RU1 zone, and provide a lot more flexibility, particularly around boundary adjustments. And there's no real relationship between this one and the work being done by Zenith Planning. These are two separate planning proposals. This particular planning proposal is around land use permissibility, what you can and cannot do on a specific piece of land in the RU1 zone. The work being done by Zenith Planning for us at this point of time is doing up a draft rural residential strategy, which will look at what are the current rural lands that are being used for rural residential or other uses that can be rezoned to more appropriate land zones. And and then in addition to that, the other part of that is a Shire-wide review of the minimum lot size in RU1, RU5, R5, all of our land uses as well. So this plan proposal in front of you is about land use, and the one coming in, we hope not too far away next year, is about lot sizes and land use rezoning of RU1 where appropriate.
Thank you.
The third part of the question is that the process could be addressed to different points. Okay, so this is to do with the comments that Mr. Wilden has provided with regards to that. So, as you see in the report, there is a level of tourism that is permissible within the current land use table as it stands, and also within the document as presented. Granted, there are a certain level of development that's prohibited as proposed, both currently in the RU1 and what's in before you. There are alternatives to that by way, if council decided to proceed with this planning proposal, we can go with other strategies, other planning proposals, additional permitted use type applications. We can look at things like that. There's also there's ways around it. Granted, they take time, they take a bit of energy and a bit of effort, but there are ways around the prohibitions that are current and proposed. So at this point in time, the discussions we've had with Department of Ag and Department of Planning are that they're not comfortable with not caravan parks, but hotel, motel type accommodation in the RU1 zones, and that essentially is the whole purpose of the rural res strategy, which will identify those zones where rural residential strategy to rezone areas that are more appropriate and things like that. While there is a level of tourism permitted, it might not be overly clear, but there are nuances within the definitions of those types of land uses within our LEP and the definitions.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Linklater.
Thank you. Thanks for that answer. So, given the size of a lot of the rural land, are you suggesting that to be able to rezone it for some of the tourism offerings we've been talking about, that you will also reduce the lot size that can be subdivided to be able to achieve that?
Yeah, where it can be appropriately justified, yes.
Councillor McAllister.
I'd like to commend the Planning Department on the significant work done. I remember 6 years ago, I reckon when we were elected, Mr Mayor, this was one of the biggest stumbling blocks that this council was having to bump up against. Every time there was a DA that conflicted with the 2011 LEP, it was like banging your head against the wall, and there was really no scope for council to do anything other than the officer recommendation, which is why another item in this agenda has come back to us again. I think the staff are to be commended for their creativity, the way that they've liaised with the planning department, and the comprehensive answers to the questions that were shot from all councillors, I think, at the pre-meeting briefing, and in particular Michelle Boss, well done. I'd hate to see an 11-year-old LEP continue to hamstrung this region from moving forward, because I think at the very least we can make a baby step forward now, and in the future we can attend to some of the other concerns that Mr Wilden had, but I'm confident with the explanation that's just been given that there are options available, some creative ones as well, and I think we should move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Beaumont.
Yeah, Mr Carroll, I'm just wondering whether you could run through briefly again the process whereby if a developer did wish to apply for approval to build hotel, motel, service department style accommodation in an R1 zone, what is the process there, and what sort of timelines are involved?
Certainly. So if hotel, motel accommodation was adopted today and it was prohibited under that category of the land use table, they could apply to council through, they'd have to go away and do a little bit of research and do a proposal up to apply for, in this particular circumstance, an additional permitted use over the land. That is I guess, a miniature planning proposal, which would then need to come into the council chamber, first of all, for a level of knowledge and advice, and come back with a level of support. We then go out to community consultation, and we advise with the Department of Planning. The current community participation plan says 28 days, so there'd be about a month there on consultation, and then it would come back into council with any submissions received from the community. We'd go through those, review those, make any changes to the document, and then represent that to council for endorsement. And then we send it off to the Department of Planning to do that. And again, they have around 28 to 30 odd days to provide a response. And then it goes through a level of gateway determination and gazettal of the LEP. So all up, you're probably looking around, for an additional permitted use, probably looking at anything between 6 and 12 months.
So the reason that it's prohibited at the moment is because of the Department of Ag, basically?
Correct. We had to include a number of things and remove a number of things in order for Department of Ag to remove their objection to the plan proposal.
Which was prohibit these?
Mostly prohibit these and rezone certain areas RU4.
Can I ask the Mayor?
Yeah, certainly.
To your knowledge, has the Minister for Agriculture come and visited, like he said he would when we met him in Broken Hill?
Word of clarification that he's no longer the minister.
Yeah, we've got a different one.
We've got
yeah.
a different
The General
ag
Manager
minister.
and I did meet him in Sydney, and we were booked in to meet with him and the Planning and Environment Minister a couple of weeks ago when the Queen passed away and Parliament got called off, so the trip got cancelled. So we're attempting to revisit. And these are all things that were on the agenda, and as we spoke in the briefing, particularly in relation to the Department of Ag and its attitude towards viable horticultural production land. Look, we have literally got thousands of acres in our district of good red country that's being developed up. Yet we can't take 50 acres off the river to create lifestyle that the people want. And I don't know how we get the message through. Hopefully they're watching the broadcast. It might give them a hint. But we have bashed it to bits a few times, and it just seems to fall on deaf ears. So that is a meeting that we really need to have with the ministers and continue to hammer it. But it really disappoints me that...
And invite him out here.
Yeah, we can line him up. It disappoints me that, you know, in this scenario here, whilst I concur with, I think, what a lot of us are feeling, we'd like to be have the ability to say, why can't we say what we want as a council and community, as Mr Wilden's alluded to, but we're put in a seat where we either agree to this and take a small step, as Councillor McAllister just said, or we go back and spend another 6 to 12 months arguing. And it's an awkward boat to be in because of rules made by people 1,000 kilometres away that know nothing about our district. Councillor Linklater.
Thank you. So if it's taken 6 years to take a small step, I'm not sure why we've got such confidence. Well, there you go. So if it's taken 11 years to make a small step, what are we locking in going forward? It seems inadequate at best. But my question to the Director is, given you've just acknowledged the Department of Ag are the ones that don't want to allow us to reduce that list of prohibited developments, again, what gives us confidence that, like, not every man and his dog wants to build a hotel or a service department complex. So given the economic reality, why would we be confident that we would be able to get the rely on the permitted with consent option rather than fixing this now, whether it's with ministerial intervention, to make sure that we get it right?
The response from Department of Ag and Department of Planning was very clear, and we did a consultation, and they basically said that anything that they have allowed a level of tourism currently in this proposed document. There is a level of what you call, as Michelle explained in the pre-briefing very briefly, is that you have a definition or a category of development, call it residential accommodation, and within that you have subcategories that are different variations of residential accommodation, whether it be backpacker, farm stay, hotel, motel, whatever it may be. What they've done here is they've gone and reviewed it and had a look and said, okay, well, these types of residential accommodation are acceptable in the RU1 zone, and these types of residential accommodation aren't. And the ones that aren't are the ones that you see in the prohibited development.
And isn't that just a perverse outcome? Why wouldn't we let our LGA, with our experience, our tourism offerings, our expertise, our entrepreneurs, decide what is the appropriate accommodation for a RU1 zone rather than someone in Sydney?
These questions have been raised many times with Department of Planning, Department of Ag, and others. Again, it's that frustrating point of there's a level of negotiation to be had, and we're stuck between a rock and a hard place between what the Department of Ag will allow us to move forward with and what they won't. And if council decide to review all of this and go back and have another crack at it, I'll be honest, there will be delays. There will be further objections that will need to be investigated and researched and reviewed, especially by Department of Ag and things like that. And that will only happen if the minister merits an extension to the planning proposal.
Okay, Councillor Beaumont.
Yes, look, I think that when you read the list of accepted developments or approved, as opposed to what's prohibited, a lot of them I think are splitting hairs. I think when it comes to farm stays or properties that have glamping amongst the vines or the orchard or whatever, I don't see a lot of difference between that and motel. Obviously, there is significant difference, but in terms of building structure. But you're offering a tourism experience, and I just feel that we do have enormous potential here, and it's largely untapped in terms of tourism, and I feel that we should be arguing for to be masters of our own destiny, I guess, in terms of what we approve.
Yeah, and I absolutely concur. We've said 100 times, like, this is our shire, this is our people, this is our community. Why don't we have a say in what should and shouldn't be allowed here, as per the community instructors? So it's up to the councillors. Any other discussion? Councillor McAllister.
I'll just make a final point, I guess, that just as the 2011 LEP was constructed by councillors and staff and councillors endorsed that LEP based on the best information available to them at the time, the future will judge us according to how we vote today, and I'm quite confident that there will be amendments required down the track. Of that, there is no doubt. But if we do not begin, we will not get there.
Yes, and that's the other side, and a very good argument. Councillor Beaumont.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, I know we don't want to attend more meetings or protract this any longer, I guess, but I'm wondering, do we need to put this on the back burner for a few days to have a bit more thought and perhaps some further discussion in a few days' time?
Well, that's an option through an amendment. It would also be, we're going to be conscious of the time, which is the 11th of November. October council meeting is...
26th is the council meeting for October, yeah? So I guess it would require an extraordinary meeting.
a special meeting.
Well, your response has got to be by the 11th of November, doesn't it? So, you know, you can have an extraordinary meeting or you can make a decision next meeting if you want to do that.
So maybe just
Councillor.
a final point of clarification for me, if I may, to the director. So if we were to change one jot or tittle of what's there, it's back for reconsideration.
That's correct.
So you couldn't strike a line through one or two prohibited developments?
Unfortunately, no. What is here before you is been a level of months and months of negotiation with the various departments.
Thanks.
Councillor Nichols?
Mr Mayor, this has been ongoing and procrastination, and I think the problem is that the people sitting in Sydney and Canberra don't understand the region, never have understood the region, don't want to understand the region, because you get a minister out here who does understand and then she's gone, or he's gone. So it's one of those things that I think what Councillor McAllister has said, it's a small step, but gee, it's nice to see a small step occasionally, and if we have to go back and start all this over again in 12 months' time before we go out, we'll be sitting here discussing it again. So we need to move forward, even if it is a stumble, to get something done, because, yeah, they just don't know in the city where we are. They don't care where we are.
Yeah, okay. Well, it is a very difficult one, and I could vote with two hands, to be honest, because I hate to be told what we should or shouldn't do, but I fully concur and support what Councillor Nichols has just said and what Councillor McAllister said, that we have to start somewhere. So we've got a recommendation. We had a mover and a seconder, didn't we? No, it was Councillor Crisp and Councillor Roddy, yeah. All right, to the vote. Those for? 2, 3, 4. Well, it's carried. Those against? You can't abstain, so I'm going to vote against it only on principle, but I agree with the decision you've made. So that's our division. So 4 is Councillors Nichols, Rodder, Hayward, Crisp, Cooper, McAllister, and against was Linklater, Beaumont, Millstone. All right, well, we can now deal with 9.11 because just okayed 9.10.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you, Councillor McAllister. Second to Councillor Crisp. Discussion. Hey, all has been said. All right, those in favour? Carried. Everyone. Okay, 9.12.
I'd like to move that, Mr Mayor, and foreshadow an amendment.
Second, Councillor Crisp, and go for it, Councillor Linklater.
Sorry, just to be clear, are you foreshadowing an amendment or moving the recommendation?
I'm moving the recommendation and, for opening it for discussion and foreshadowing an amendment, which is how we normally do it. We move it into discussion and
we move it into discussion, yep, so it's open for discussion. Well,
all right, I'll move.
You what?
I'll move the amendment.
Yep.
Good. I'd like to move an amendment to the recommendation that Council resolves to remove condition 9 from the consent DA 2021/051.
Okay, and I think that was actually one of the options, wasn't it? Okay, let's move Councillor Linklater. Who seconded that? Councillor Crisp, you happy with that amendment? Any further discussion?
Just a point of order.
Yes, councillor.
The recommendation does say confirm the notice of determination, and I think that might be a requirement. Am I right? Because that was a contentious.
Yeah, so the.
Oh, okay, so we got it, yes.
Yeah, so the recommendation is seeking to confirm the recommendation, which is to retain the condition, and
Yes.
hence the motion. Yes.
Oh, yes, well, no. You probably can't do both because that actual recommendation is that you retain condition 9. So if we're going to,
Well, when I've read the meeting procedure, I'm sure I read it when we did our training, that you can move a motion and
Yep.
foreshadow at that time that you intend to move an amendment.
all right.
But I'm happy to be proven wrong and have someone else move
attempt
it.
to prove you wrong, but, so, you're going to move that we resolve to confirm the original notice of determination? Is that correct or not?
No.
No?
Is it easier, Mr. Chair, if we just have another mover?
Sorry, I'm getting myself confused, but. All right.
You don't have to move the you don't need to move what the resolution is, just move what you want to say.
Basically, what you're doing is
That's just what he did, you just read it.
just move what you wanted to move. All right. We're getting a bit confused with what's right.
So does that capture the intent?
So we resolve to remove condition 9 from the original notice of determination issued for DA 2021-051.
As opposed to retaining it?
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Good. Any other comment? All in favour? Oh, you've got a comment.
I do have a comment. I'm sorry, and I have to speak to it because obviously I voted against this last time. The reason for that was that under the current LEP, we're not allowed to make this determination. So I'm going to have to, unfortunately, adhere to my previous decision until the LEP is changed. And this is one of the reasons why the LEP needed to be changed.
Yeah, good point. Councillor Nichols?
Yeah, what Councillor McAllister said is right, because I was one of the others that also got named doing this. Yeah, because we're going directly against the LEP.
I think you voted. No, you voted for it. Yeah. It's on page 176. Anyway, that's all right. So any other discussion? Those in favour? Four. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Is that something we should hold over until the LNP has been sorted, that decision, so we're not in breach of that? So what's the ramifications of us making a decision which we're legally not allowed to?
Well, we're making it's already done, probably last year was when it was made, was the one we're voting on here is removing a condition. Councillor Crisp.
And as I understand, having read...
Microphone, please.
I supported this motion because of some of the overlying grandfathering provisions from prior to the 2011 LEP. And I think that was laid out by Mr Goldsworthy in his written material, that we can do this because there were grandfathering provisions that have applied, and he's structured the argument there for us to read, and I think that's a fairly compelling argument for us to vote for this amendment.
Okay. Councillor Linklater.
Yeah, so just to add to that, I mean, what was done in the previous council was done, and I think that Mr Goldsworthy's provided very good justification for removing condition 9. So one of the aspects discussed was that changes to the provision of the EP&A Act made in March 2020 as a gift of COVID relate to the existing use rights, and that the additional 2 years means that the existing use rights expire only after 3 years, which brings it into the relevant time frame, and therefore condition 9 is not applicable. That's the submission of Mr Goldsworthy.
That's not what I'm confused about, but thank you, Councillor
Okay. Are you okay?
It's written funny, so the amendment that's listed here on the papers, there's a recommendation that a division is called, then you've got an amendment, then you've got a council resolution. So this is what was passed last year, that's written here.
No. What page are you on?
21. 176.
Okay, so 176, yes, is the motion from last year. So we are going back to page 166, where the Deputy Mayor has amended the recommendation to read that Council resolved to remove condition 9 from the original notice of determination issued for DA 2021/051, prohibiting dwellings on lots 1 and 2. That's what we're voting on. Okay, so can we do it again to make sure we're clear? All in favour? Against? So that's carried. Division is all councillors for, with Councillor McAllister against. Okay. Next item is item 913, stages 1 to 6 of 161 lot subdivision of a 262 lot subdivision. So the first stages of lots 2 and 3 DP 878007 and lot 2 DP 1014681 Baronga. We have a recommendation there. Can I have a move and a seconder to open it? Yeah, Councillor Nichols, Councillor Linklater, open for questions. Councillor Nichols. Microphone, please.
On page 177, the recommendation says 1 to 6, 161
Yes.
lot subdivision. On page 183, on the statement of environmental effects on the bottom, it says approval is sought for 181 lot subs. So it's 261 altogether. So should this be 161 here, or should it be 261?
It's what's presented in the recommendation. There was a level of modification and changes since the statement of environmental effects was written that was subsequently assessed and things like that.
So the 180 there is not correct.
Yeah, so the correct one is in the submission.
Yes.
In the recommendation, and the statement of environmental effects was the first round pick, basically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Okay, Councillor Crisp. Microphone, please.
Director Cunn, during the presentation, the provisions for open space was raised. I noticed this is only part of a development. Will there be opportunities in the future to have discussions with the proponents about open space requirements?
Absolutely, and those conversations have already taken place in recent weeks and months. To the point where it's not a part of this particular stage of the development. It's actually going to be included in the other stage of the development, and it's going to incorporate potentially I guess the vision is that it's going to incorporate part of the irrigation channel that's there, and they're working with WMI and others to make all that happen. And they've agreed to apportion some land in that to open up and provide more of a green corridor that goes from, I think, Pittman Avenue all the way out to Melaleuca on the north side. That's all went through a variations of plannings between planning and engineering and backwards and forwards a few times until we came up with an agreeable green space for the later subdivision.
Councillor Rodder?
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. My question was, what would be the implications of delaying this item to ensure that the community is consulted appropriately and fully?
There's no real advantage to that. We actually the community consultation when it comes to DAs is around the invitation for potentially impacted surrounding landholders to provide a submission on the plans they're provided. If there's any modifications or changes to those plans, they're given an opportunity to make more submissions, which they have done, many people have done. It's not common practice in planning world to personally consult with those people. I mean, yes, I have attended the site with surrounding landholders, and Mr. Underhill was here tonight, and I did come out there and meet with him and other neighbours and things like that. It's the community consultation for the purposes of, I know this is a little bit of a cop-out, but the purposes of legislation have been satisfied. But obviously there's a level of concern and things like that that we can address because the DA is still in a assessment stage. It's still up for consideration and things like that. So it's something that if you want to go back and rethink, or you want to add conditions or put limitations on the design or whatever it may be, that's something that the council can do.
Supplementary, if I may, Mr. Mayor, what's the deadline for that, if I may?
There is no deadline. It's because this is a local planning DA. It's entirely up to council and us here to do that.
How long's the DA been in?
For a while. I mean, given that we do have clock timeframes set down by the Department of Planning and the regulations and things like that. But if we can provide a level of justification as to why it's taken so long when we do our reporting, then that's fine too.
So how long?
This DA came in 2021, went through a level modification.
Actually, it's in before that boundary realignment, looking at the one before it.
Before it, yeah. So I'd have to take that on notice and come back to you and provide a bit more update. I don't have the clock times on me at the moment.
I guess the point I'm making is it's probably nearly 12 months. How long do we got to make people wait?
Yeah.
Councillor Rodder?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, although I'm aware of the timeframes that the developer has been waiting, my concern is with regards to the impact that this development will have on people within that community and within that running parallel.
Didn't we say previously about another development that was also going to run into Melaleuca? I'm getting to the stage where I'm thinking I hate to live on Melaleuca.
Barapodia's gonna, except that's a block across, yeah. It's further down.
Toward the highway.
Highway.
I understood at the meeting previously, it was said that the development there, they could run towards the highway. If we're going to have all this stuff running towards the highway, it's going to cause a huge bottleneck at the highway.
So irrespective of whether Maripolia and this latest DA feed onto Melaleuca, they're still both going to be feeding onto the highway either at the bottom of Melaleuca or at the bottom of Pittman. So if you feed both of those developments onto Melaleuca and potentially put a roundabout in at Pittman and Melaleuca, that will slow the traffic down and create a safer passage in that area.
Okay, we got 3 hands got up there. I'll go Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Probably a comment as much as anything. Mr Underhill made a very passionate presentation earlier this evening in relation to this development and the exit point for traffic onto Pittman Avenue. I'm all for development, these large-scale developments in our shire. I think, though, we need to be very much in tune with the impact that these developments have on already existing landowners and households in the immediate precinct. Having witnessed a similar development in another shire, which have affected people that we know, these sorts of developments can have huge personal impact on people, and I think we need to sometimes think about the people that already live in these areas before we rush into approving these developments. I think thought as to a service road and those sorts of things, I think to minimise or mitigate the impact on already existing landowners and householders is probably an appropriate way to go.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Linklater.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not sure whether we had a seconder to the amendment, but I'd like to speak against it. We've got to remember that this land is zoned for residential development, and so the idea of T-intersections, which are quite common around all of the residential subdivisions, notwithstanding the comments from Mr Underhill, which obviously at a personal level I'm sympathetic towards. However, the road has to go somewhere, and I think if you look at the plan in an alternative universe, perhaps you could have extended Pooley Street in there, but that raises other complications as to how you get across an easement that hasn't been dealt with yet. I think we're conscious of the time that this has been under consideration, and there has been a series of objections. Now, most of the objections deal with the increased traffic movements. There's a substantial traffic study that's been presented, and it goes through in great detail in how to deal with those not unexpected increases in traffic movements, given this is an area that council has earmarked for residential development. The road widths on Melaleuca in sections and Pittman Avenue will both have to be widened. There's 2 metre footpaths to be put in, so that's a great feature and a community asset. In terms of the old growth trees that would have to be removed to make it a safe road for the increased and enlarged community, they will have to be replaced with an approved set of trees, and obviously they will grow and become a beautiful avenue as well. So I think that, well, some of the trees are already, unfortunately.
Maybe because they haven't been maintained by council to keep the water, maybe?
Yeah, I just want to bring us back to the point that this is a residential development in a residential area, and it looks to be a high quality development. And I think all the traffic concerns have been dealt with extensively, and I'd invite councillors to maybe read the detailed report if they haven't had opportunity, because there's been a lot of work go into this submission.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hayward?
Yeah, going down Pittman Avenue, it's a dangerous road anyway. You can't drive down there with a trailer or anything on. Cars coming towards you. And there's going to be a lot of traffic that's going to go straight down to the highway at Baronga. You know, it needs addressing, and I'm afraid the trees were planted too close to the road to start with. You know, it's a problem that's been put there by maybe a horticulturalist many years ago. But if you drive down there, if there's a car parked, you have to wait to get around it if cars are coming towards you. It's not even a safe road now. So it needs a lot of improvement, because it's going to get it's getting a lot of traffic from the other development down towards Midway that are coming down that road now. Just, yeah, needs a big upgrade.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the amendment didn't get a seconder, or did we ask for one?
I didn't ask for a seconder, but I can.
So have we got a seconder for so the amendment is that you want to add conditions is? So council request a condition that a service road be included within the subdivision that directs the traffic out to Melaleuca. And the retention of the jacaranda trees. Have we got a seconder for that? Well, if there's no seconder, the amendment folds, and go back to the recommendation. Those in favour? That's carried. Against? So a division, 7-4, councillors Rodder and McAllister against. Okay, item 9.14 is the re-establishment of the alcohol-free zones. There's a recommendation there. Move Councillor Hayward, second by Councillor Cooper. Discussion. I think it's pretty straightforward. Question, Councillor McAllister.
My question is about alcohol-free zones in schools. Do these alcohol-free zones need to be extended to encompass also the school areas, or are schools on their own and environs alcohol-free zones in their own right?
I would hope just the school would be alcohol-free, but I don't know if it's got to be zoned, does it?
No, it doesn't have to be zoned. The schools themselves are actually, for all intents and purposes, alcohol-free, drug-free, smoke-free, all that sort of stuff, within their own environs, as you say.
But also the surrounds.
Oh, their surrounds. No, the surrounds aren't. It's just
you
that
can drink alcohol outside of school.
on the footpath, technically, yes, but
Well, that's the point of my question.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to add anything to it, or that was just?
I would just suggest that particularly the Darling Street one be extended up. Hang on. Yeah, that's where the school is, isn't it? So that it also encompasses the area in front of the school, noting also that the school crosses the road to use the park there as well.
Okay. Probably not on the school side, but yeah, certainly on the other side. Mm. Mm. All right, so we've got a recommendation. It's been moved and seconded. Do we have a seconder? Yep.
Not yet.
Yeah, Councillor Cooper was the seconder. Councillor Hayward moved it. All in favour? Carried. So we got these. Righto, 9.15 is the delegated approvals as of the end of August. The recommendation there, mover, Councillor Chris, seconder, Councillor McAllister. Any discussion? All in favour? Carried. 9.16 is a project and works update. Oh, sorry, a division on delegated approvals. It was unanimous, yeah, everyone. 9.16 is a project and works update. Recommendation there, Councillor Hayward, second Councillor Cooper. Discussion. Well, a couple, disappointing to see the damage out around Dearden at the library and the footy oval. Councillor McAllister.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about the state of some of the roads, in particular the gravel roads or the dirt roads, where there are cattle grids, and how they're faring with the rain and the traffic, increased traffic. I note there was a message from a resident on the Anna branch in relation to that, and we've had previous issues from people a little further north.
Yeah, the GM and I drove that and had a bit of a look that afternoon, and yeah, it was a slush, I tell you. So I think Hayden went out there, Hayden Baird went and had a look, and they'll grade it and try and get some material into it when it's dry enough and good enough to do.
If I may, is that part of our general maintenance that we sort of, when there's road closures due to wet conditions, that we look at things like those cattle grids to make sure that people can still get their stock in and out, etc.?
Yes, part of the process of there's always an inspection of any of the closed roads prior to opening, of which the cattle grids and the crossings form part of that. So any required works be identified as part of that maintenance program of opening the roads at that time.
All right, Councillor Nichols.
It's disappointing to see that some of the works that we have continuing to go out later and later and later, and I'm talking about the back road. It'd be nice to be able to drive up and down there before Christmas. The other I want to know is, do we have, or are we going to put some sort of cameras at the library, the George Gordon Oval, because at least we may be able to take a picture of somebody, because they've been through Wentworth last weekend. Smashed windows all over the place. The post office has got a window smashed. The
hairdresser had one.
The hairdressers had one. The glass was 3/4 the way down the shop, and it's very thick. And I think we've got to get cameras and things in these places where at least we can stop some of these young or old hoodlums and have them seen and put them where they should be, have them charged.
Oh, we do have a CCTV program in tow, don't we? But it's not going to cover everything, and that's the problem. We can't have them everywhere.
Is there any way we could put the sign? Is there any way we could put the signs up saying you're on camera?
Maybe. Councillor Beaumont.
But the camp kitchen, as it sits at the moment, is sitting in a moat, and I feel sure that there was significant water inundation to that building 2 or 3 weeks ago after a shower of rain, and subsequently pumps were utilised to empty that out. We did raise 1 or 2 meetings ago a concern in relation to the ground level around that building. It is significantly below the surrounding ground level, so it's going to be subject to water inundation on a regular basis. I'm just wondering what remedial action might be taken or proposed to alleviate that situation. And I've got a couple of subsequent questions.
I haven't heard of the pumping out of it, but how long ago was it?
Oh, 2 weeks ago.
That's correct.
It's, my concern is that it's going to be an ongoing problem because the floor level of that building is, at a guess, I would say 300 to 400 mil lower than the surrounding earthworks.
Which is something
By the time we put red
Councillor
loam
Hayward brought up
over the
a
top
couple
of
of meetings
that,
ago.
over that reactive clay, it's going to be worse. So, as I said, I'm wondering how we're going to deal with that situation going forward.
Director Gunn, I presume there will be substantial drainage, stormwater drainage works there, and there'll be something put there to take care of that?
Yeah, well, I take your point, and I certainly agree with your observations with the pumping and the current level. There is damage to the building and associated electrical works at the moment. You're correct, and as from my understanding, staff having a look at that particular level location with regards to subsequent drainage and or the option to adjust the level of the building itself and or the subsequent overlay of the slab to bring it up to a level.
Yeah, to me, to put drainage in is putting a band-aid over the problem. If I apply to build a house in this shire, my slab has to be above ground level. I think I'm right in saying that. So why would we be having a camp kitchen that is below surrounding ground level?
Good question. Before my time, obviously, the level's been set for the surrounding ground and the camp kitchen was obviously already existing. And I would suggest at this stage that all those particular issues on the table for a discussion with the project group to subsequently resolve the issue in the most cost-effective way to going forward with regards to drainage.
Well, I think the most cost-effective way may not be the best way going forward. It might be that the more expensive option of raising that building is the better way to go, and then alleviating that drainage problem.
I take your point, and as I said, it's a issue of levels have been set to prior to my involvement with the project, but the levels have been set there for flooding and the building previously there. So an issue that needs to be addressed. I take your point, and happy to come back to council with what the solution is for that particular problem.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Rodder?
Thank you. So just in regards to the height level there, so with the impending flood, will the earthworks that have already been completed be higher than the anticipated water levels? Very good question.
How big's the flood going to be? I would think, I spoke with a lock on Monday, and the forecast had gone from 70,000 megs a day to 100, which puts us about where we were in 2016. So that might get sort of halfway up, if that makes sense. But it will depend on what continues to happen up the Murray, largely, because Dartmouth is full. Hume has got 9 gates open a day, 50,000 a day. The first 3 days of this week, there was 85,000 metres a day of downstream inflows from the tributaries. The numbers we had from 93, I think, would put the existing fill level under, and that was about 140,000 megalitre a day flow rate, or 33.3 metres. So who knows what's going to happen?
Assuming that it does go underwater, what anticipated damage would you expect on the works that have already been done?
Works that have been done at the moment, probably very limited, apart from a wet site and obviously further damage to the camp kitchen. So works to the moment are trimming to level and cutting out for roads. Obviously there's top dressing of loam in the first bigger irrigated areas. There's delivery of materials and pipes with the anticipated installation of irrigation and pipe work due to commence in 2 weeks' time. So that's the delivery of the other materials, and that gives council a chance to finish trimming the earthworks to level to allow the subcontractor to come in and commence works. Everything else has been fencing materials, other items have all been removed, fill to the appropriate levels, as I said, being trimmed at the moment. So at the moment, limited infrastructure. We will continue to monitor and assess the predictions and levels of the river, and we'll make a call on it at the time where we think yes, impact's we're going to lose out. But at the moment, very limited.
So potentially the loan that we're currently putting down could be lost.
Potentially, but that's at the very highest level. So there will be, if the water gets up to that level, we will have suffered damage in many other locations apart from 7 or 8 truckloads of loam that's here at the moment. Yep.
Councillor Hayward.
Well, the flood, if that is a problem, I can't see why we can't cart some dirt in and put a little levee bank right along the caravan park there to solve the problem from water coming in. The other question I've got about the loam that's going there, I had some information come to me that the other mob that originally had a quote in there was a lot more loam. The loam that's going in there at the moment, clay moves, and it's going to swallow up that little bit of loam will go down, and to me it'll be a clay proposition again. I believe we're wrong with how much cover is on it. Doesn't look too much to me.
I think the current level of, or the finished surface level of loam on the first area is approximately 75 mil, and on the cut down sections in and around the remainder of all the park where the pads go, it's 100 mil.
That's not a lot. I know I'm in horticulture and cool and clay there. It moves with wet and dry, and it swallows up loam like nobody's business, and I can't see 100 mil going to be a good cover for that to be putting down anyway. That's just my opinion, but it's just over observations over the years of how loam disappears into clay, and we want to get this right. And I think that 75 to 100 mil of loam is not getting it right. And are we going to dig trenches through that 100 mil and have clay come up, and then we're sort of going to be messing up the loam that's going to be there if it's only 100 mil.
There are some trenches to go through there, and I think the decision's made to in part lose a little bit of that, so there's no contamination. If there's extra loam that has to go back in, that was that minor cost was going to offset the grader having to work around what would be already installed irrigation, of which would be very difficult with our big machinery, and we would have caused damage to that. So that was the decision that was made there, but I take your point.
It's just a big concern of mine that there's not enough loam going on top of that.
Yeah, well, I was led to believe it was going to be 150 mil cover, so that where did that number come from?
Yeah.
The slabs were going to be poured on top of the ground.
And that camp kitchen, the RL peg was there, and when that concrete was poured, and that was going to be the original level of the park, and mostly gratefully it's gone up because it's making a better proposition. It's just the camp kitchen's the problem, but the rest coming up the extra height. Some surveyors got it wrong there, awfully wrong, when they put the peg there and they're pouring the concrete, because the whole camp kitchen was actually going to be up, I think, about at least 20 to 30 mil above ground level, so you were looking down on the river. But surveyors are afraid to put the pegs in the wrong place or haven't got the right height to start with. So I still think we should look at that loam. I just don't believe. There must be experts around that we can talk to what we really need to have at 100 mil. And if it's less, it's not worth putting there.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like, now's the time to do it. Well, the opportunity's there. Councillor Beaumont?
Yeah, look, I agree with Councillor Hayward. I think we've got the opportunity now to get this right. I've had a recent experience at another caravan park where it was raining heavily. The lawn was on substantially clay, and we were getting bogged. And I think that that's the risk we run. If we skimp on red loam in the caravan park, you're going to end up with a facility that's prone to vehicles bogging on lawns and drive-throughs, etc. I think we've got to. I would like to know what was the original specification for red loam on that site with the previous contractor. I think it was a lot more than 150 to 200 mil.
Well, I always thought it was 150.
Yeah, well, I thought it was more.
Yeah.
So I haven't got the reports of the other contractor. I'd like that to be brought back to us. What was originally planned for that?
Well, that info is obviously there, so it won't be hard to find.
No, it'll be in our contract documentation. But, that's one area where we're potentially saving money, but we may be, creating a bigger problem down the track.
Yeah, which is not what we're aiming to do. Did you have a question?
Just a quick one. Is the camp kitchens transportable? Yeah. Can it not be moved to prevent damage to it?
Councillor Linklater?
Thank you. Just acknowledge that the Golgol Cemetery shed was completed last month, and I thank Councillor Nichols for her continued support for that project. But no, I have a question to Director Gunn on the Golgol East rural water system. Notice we're heading towards procurement. Is that likely to be completed on schedule by the end of the year as previously indicated, or is the rising river and that sort of going to interfere potentially?
I don't think the rising river will affect the issue. I think will be the availability of the final contractor for installation of the componentry and the repair of the concrete platform will be the controlling figures. Our components have, all those quotations have been assessed, and all the providers have now been set up on our system, so orders have been placed for all those components, and the tender is out through Public Works for the installation of the project.
Yeah, so it could well run into next year, but given that it rains every week, no one's using sprinklers anyway.
So there has been some minor delays. There was quite a lot of clarification, and some of the provider suppliers, there were some limitations on their componentry, on the available fit to the pump station. So there's been quite a number of backwards and forwards discussions between suppliers, Public Works and ourselves. But that part of it is all progressing forward now.
Thank you.
Okay, councillor Rodder?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, in reference to that, Daniel, the excess water usage charges would indicate otherwise.
Yeah, well, they do actually.
The Wentworth Showground sewer system, so it would be fabulous to have that project completed, particularly in time for the Melbourne Cup. That sewer system at its best probably would not cope with the crowd that was at the Wentworth show. So 45 minutes for ladies to access the toilet facilities at showgrounds is less than acceptable. So it would be good to have the sewer project finished. However, one of the things that I think that we need to consider is additional toilet facilities at the showground.
In the showground camp kitchen upgrade, is there any possibility there of additional amenities with that project?
Anything can be subjected to design and additional money.
Good answer.
That, on the main new building there was a bit of a talk fest on maybe putting toilets closer to the main building when you're having a dance or whatever there, that people have got to walk right over to toilets. Might be... Pardon?
Toilets in.
Yeah, but that's only for disabled, I think you're fine. It's not much. Yeah.
Is there an opportunity to add extra toilet facilities to the proposed jockey room extension?
As per Ken's previous answer, yes, subject to extra funding. Yes.
Yeah. So if there's no capacity for extra toilet facilities to be built there before the next show, then I think the recommendation needs to be for that event or council to bring portable toilet units in.
There was a lot of portable toilets at the show. But they were out on the racetrack and it looked like they were just parked there.
Yeah, they're up near the gate end, weren't they?
Yeah, but there was no signs, and I went and thought, I'll try a door, and it was opened, but there was no sign saying public toilets. People were walking past them and they were there. There was heaps there.
That was a consequence of a phone call that I made on Saturday afternoon to get portable toilets there for Sunday morning.
So they just put them all in a one
I wasn't responsible
spot.
for where they were put, but I organised the toilets.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit of a no-no. Yeah. But I've been the sewerage man there at race meetings before with 7,000 people, and it's a constant job.
Bless you for your
Councillor Crisp.
I'd like to move an amendment to the motion that council seek grant funding for additional toilets at the showgrounds.
I'm just a little perplexed whether we could actually put that amendment in on that, that recommendation, or whether we should hold that over to questions on notice. Or it's all when it comes at the end of the meeting.
It'll be there if you do it now.
Okay, I'm happy to second it.
Okay, so the amendment is that we do receive a note the major works undertaken in August 22 and the scheduled works for following months, and that council receives, and the scheduled works for following months, the council seek funding for additional toilets for the Wentworth Showgrounds. Right, happy with that?
So before we vote on that motion, Mr Mayor, if I could just ask a question in regards to the Civic Centre tenders, and I know that's been brought up previously, but for next meeting, could we have a little bit more information about the Civic Centre? And I know I missed the briefing visit over there, so I'm probably trying to play catch up. But Councillor McAllister may also appreciate a little bit more information in regards to where we're actually at with the Civic Centre. And
Well, once they finish sorting out the actual tender docs, we intend to have an advisory committee meeting around the Civic Centre only, so that'll be one of those. And it is, and there's a bit enclosed today, but it's not what you're looking for. All right, anything else out of that? All in favour? Carried. Okay, notices the motions. We'll go around the room quickly. Councillor Nichols, or questions without notice?
Because it was an amendment, it now becomes the motion, so we now need to vote on the motion.
Okay. So,
As you know. Call me on the hop.
all right, so the amendments became the motion. And it is as read that we receive and note the major works undertaken in August 22 and the scheduled works for the following months, and council seek funding for additional toilets at the Wentworth Shire. Move Councillor Chris, seconded Councillor Rodder. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Notices the motions and questions without notice.
Could I start and ask that we have a comfort break for 2 minutes, please?
9:21. Can we, well, do you want to quickly, oh, this might, how long's it going to take to have, has anyone got anything urgent? Because we're having a break to go into closed. We'll have a 5-minute break. You right, Simon? Yep. Okay, we're back from the break. Notices of motions and questions without notice. We'll start with councillor Nichols. Nothing?
I'd suggest that next time perhaps we can have supper instead of tea.
Okay. Councillor Rotter?
So I'd like to bring to the Chamber's attention that fruit stand at Goldwell on the way out of town towards Trenton Cliffs. That's been utilised as a truck parking area, and concerns have been raised that that area's been used where trucks are actually parking overnight and using the bushes in that area as a toilet without there being actual facilities there. Is it possible to perhaps modify that area so trucks can't park there? There's like at the Trentham Cliffs truck parking bay. There's toilets available at the truck stop in Baronga. I don't see the need for trucks to be able to stop in that area there. I realise it's difficult for them to pull into the James King Park area, but perhaps a couple of modifications, no truck parking, a couple of bollards to stop them from getting in there, which would remove the capacity for them to use that as a, well, it's not just urinal, unfortunately, Sue.
Okay. Well, we can certainly look into that. Thank you, councillor Hayward. Oh, councillor Rotter, another?
Go around the table and then come back?
No, go.
Right. Okay, so I have a question in regards to the tender handling process and changes to tender brief. So if a tender goes out, should that tender not be managed in the same manner in which the brief was issued? So there's been, from what I've been made aware, changes to a tender brief, and I've been to every meeting and I'm not aware of any consultation with council in regards to changes to that brief. If there was a change to a tender brief, should that tender have been re-tendered? Because actually what is now isn't what was actually in the brief and what people tendered for in the first place.
Don't know where to start. We'll review the process, and if you give me the specific tender you refer to, we can have some specifics.
Okay.
So could I just ask you, perhaps referring to variations of a contract document?
No. He's talking about it.
You're talking about the specification or the design specification in relation to something.
Yeah. And would it be possible, and I've asked before, but I'd like to put it on official notice for monthly reports from tourism and events to be included in the business papers, please.
Yeah, we can do that.
So possibly what you could do, you could go to those organisations that are part of the ones we attend and ask if they would send copies of their minutes.
Certainly. I'll just add to that. So as a member of the Wentworth Regional Tourism Committee, as a council representative, I know more about what's going on with the tourism and events in the Shire than what I know as a councillor, and I find that not acceptable.
Okay, we should be able to follow that up. Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Councillor Hayward? Microphone, please.
The only question I've got is about the dirt, the loam at the caravan park. I'd like it to be brought back for what the tender was originally, how much dirt, and to come up with a different scenario that will fit it. I just feel that we need a little bit more clarification before we go too far ahead.
Agree, and now's the time to do it.
Yep. And it might stop it from flooding if we go a bit higher.
Yeah, well, you have to ask Huey that one. Councillor Linklater.
Thank you. Question with notice. Could we please consider line marking along Eltringa Drive to assist with driver safety? I believe it's a B double route, and just with the interaction with passenger vehicles, some people feel they're getting run off the road. I think white lines would be a simple and pretty cheap safety upgrade. And also the S-bend on that road where it becomes Corbett Avenue, who's responsible for trimming the overhanging limbs back from the box trees? Yep. Thanks.
I might just be able to provide a bit of information to that. So staff have already had a look at that section of road. The existing seal width is not wide enough at the moment to put a white line down the middle, which would mean that if cars would almost be driving with one wheel on the dirt all the time at the moment. So the standard minimum seal width to allow for a white line down the middle is 6.2 metres. That seal width is less than that at the moment. So that would require shoulder build-up and shoulder widening and sealing to allow for a white line to be put down the middle.
Right, I'll have to restate the question then. Could we please consider widening the road and building up the shoulder so that cars aren't run off the road because, or at least make it so that it's possible. I know there's many roads where you expect to run off. This one, you can have a couple of inches drop down into the gravel, so thanks.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chris. No, Councillor Cooper.
Yes, just a bit of feedback from Lower Anna Branch, as we've touched on before, just about the roads up there. I think yourself and Ken went out and had a look. Yeah, I'm just getting feedback from there that they would like to see it graded as soon as possible. They got, in the coming months, about 6,000 tonne of grain hopefully coming out of there, plus a whole lot of lambs, for sale.
There'll be wool as well. So.
Yeah, and wool. So that's, I'm actually going to Anna Branch on Sunday afternoon. They've got a meeting up there at the hall, so I'll go up and see that.
Can we get it graded there tomorrow?
Well, before next weekend, because I've got a wedding to go to too, and there's 240 cars going up that road. So, but and also just where are we up to with the Baronga toilets? We were looking at options for that and the pipe, 150mm pipe going down the existing one, if it was to go at the Rose Gardens, which I think is still a pretty good option. But yes, just wondering where we're up to with that.
Yeah, that's still being looked at. Obviously, with the limited staff we've got at the moment, I will address that and we'll certainly look at that option and come back to council ASAP with regards to decision on both of those particular options that were raised.
Take the money out of there and put them in the showground.
Councillor Beaumont.
Mr Mayor, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a simple comment. I've received a couple of comments from community members about the collection of firewood and cutting of firewood along Log Bridge Road. I'm not sure whether that's a Crown Lands issue or our issue, but there's pretty much all the standing dead timber along Log Bridge Road, between Log Bridge Road and the river, has been removed over the last year or two.
It's not a council issue.
They're now starting to move into the Thurgowa Lagoon area, so I'm just wondering whether that's something we need to have a look at.
We can draw it to the attention of Crown Lands, I suppose.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the first time. There was times where, we've addressed it through forestry, we've addressed it through Crown Lands. No one appears to want to assume ownership of it. Councillor McAllister and I will talk about signage and, so best we could probably do is some advisory signage.
Okay.
Photograph it.
Councillor McAllister.
Thank you. My question is about when staff leave, is there a professional debriefing that occurs, like an exit interview?
Yep.
Yes is the answer to that.
And
Conducted by the manager of HR.
Okay, and following on from that, when councillors leave, is there a professional debriefing/exit interview that occurs? Because I think we would all be aware that there is a need for that. The duty of care, I believe, lies with the general manager, and I would like to see that taken a little bit more seriously, because it appears that that hasn't happened, and I think council is remiss if we don't look after each other. And I'd like to see that being taken a bit more seriously and acted on, please.
Yes, Loretta.
In regards to the HR manager being the person responsible for doing an exit interview with staff,
Well, I'll let the GM answer, but I would have thought that the HR bloke, that's
HR
his
is probably the
job.
most independent person I've got. He's after the health and well-being and culture of the whole organisation. So with respect, I'd refute your comments and say that he's the best one for the job.
so do you think some staff, the ex-staff may feel uncomfortable in sharing their thoughts with somebody who's in the position of HR?
The last three that I've read have been fairly open and candid in their thoughts around the culture, the management, the reasons for leaving, and all the formatted questions that we have and additional information. So, I would say no to the last three that I've read. No. There's been themes around payment. There's been themes around flexibility. So none have sort of manifested to represent one cultural issue or problem.
That would be in contrast to information that is independent exit interviews.
You would see fit to pay an outside consultant for someone to go and sit with to conduct an interview. Is that what you're suggesting?
If there's, if the information
Right, so we'd probably need to know who breached the code of conduct in terms of councillor staff interaction.
Just caution the confidentiality that we're in open
Yeah, we're
council.
still on the camera. Perhaps if you want to continue it, let's chuck it into the next, when we go into close, no?
And I'd just like to make the point that I don't accept that just because people don't treat councillors professionally and do debriefing, that we should do the same. I think we should look after each other. And even if sitting councillors aren't here, they should probably be followed up and asked about their welfare and how they're doing. And I'd just like to see that done a little more thoroughly and professionally, please.
Okay, councillor Linklater, would you like to take us into closed?
Thank you. I move that council adjourn into closed session and that the recording of the meeting be suspended, members of the press and public be excluded from the closed session, and that access to the correspondence and reports relating to the items considered during the course of the closed session be withheld unless declassified by separate resolution.
Okay, seconder. Councillor, everyone, Chris, all in favour? Carried. All in favour, carried. And that the General Manager report to the community. Thank you, Mr Ross.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. During the closed session of council, in relation to some plant replacement, in the first item, 12.1, council accepts the tender from Johnson's Trucks for the supply of one Hino on a specialised road maintenance truck for a sum of $349,500, and further that they offer the trade-in vehicle to community groups for an open expression of interest process. In relation to 12.2, the supply of bulk automotive fuel tender, that council, in accordance with section 178(1)A of the Local Government General Regulation 2021, accepts the tender from Sunraysia Petroleum for the supply of bulk automotive fuel in accordance with the submitted schedule of rates. In relation to item 12.3, that council approves a variation of $44,530, including GST, for bridge lifts for maintenance tender number 2021/09 with AM Electrical Contracting Proprietary Limited. In relation to 12.4, that council allocate an additional $100,000 to fulfil the requirements for GST architects to continue with the project delivery of the Wentworth Civic Centre. In relation to item 12.5, being an infrastructure contribution for the subdivision adjacent to Wentworth Aerodrome, that council concur with the request for a contribution of $43,372 towards water infrastructure to service the 11-lot subdivision on Renmark Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. That draws the meeting to a close. So thank you, councillors, and thank you for sticking it out. It was a bit of a longer one than normal. And the next meeting shall be an advisory committee meeting when?
When is the advisory?
Well, I can't see it. What is it?
Former Councillor Evans requested that that be shared with US councillors.
The next meeting is? When's the next advisory?
Because we're going to Sydney, yeah.
So we've got on the...
So the next ordinary meeting will be on the 26th of October.
Confirmed that date, we're just waiting for the others to say as well. In relation to one of the things you were talking about before, so Dougal Saunders is now the Agricultural Minister.